Morning. It's kind of an interesting notion, at least it's interesting to me, about how people try to bring about the march of progress. I was thinking of two ways in particular. One of them would be more of a subversive approach, and the other would be a traditionalist approach. The subversive has more to do with the notion of digging everything up, breaking the foundations, destroying that which came before, and starting something new. The other would have to do with, okay, let's take what already works, let's take what's already here and build on that. I could easily imagine a scenario in which both would be useful. Like, obviously, if the people who came before didn't know what they were doing or was doing something really bad, then yeah, by all means, tear it all down and start something new. But I guess maybe I would tend towards a traditionalist approach. I tend to think people do what works. Historically, people were doing the best they could with what they had, so maybe that's my own personal bias, though. Anyways, moving on, we have some stuff to look at. Yeah, the town that blamed Bigfoot for a triple murder. This is his new podcast thing or whatever. He'll probably say what it is. I forgot. Hold on. I have to slow it down. Alright. There we go. Alright. Now, Bob's your uncle.
Welcome to the first episode of the Nonstop PsyOp podcast. Basically, an excuse to make a Saturday video that makes sense.
This looks like a fishing hat. I don't know. It's an otter, right? Or something like that.
A little lower effort and a little crazier stories that I'm not going to talk about in my main channel, guys. So if you want to see another episode of this...
Wait, who was it that made these types of, like, glasses popular? Because it feels like it was kind of an Elton John thing or whatever. Well, I guess Elton John, he wears glasses like this, right? Kind of. His would maybe be a little bit darker, but not whatever reason I thought of him as kind of wearing this type.
Press the like button, hit the subscribe button. It'll be on the Oompaville YouTube channel every single Saturday at 10 o'clock a.m. Central Standard Time. It probably won't. All right, guys. It probably won't post then. Knowing my team, Tara specifically, she's so slow. Tara, put that clip of me spitting water on you that one time. Remember that happened? Anyways, coming at you live with the first episode about a story in which...
How do you guys feel about Bigfoot? I don't know. Like, I feel like with a lot of cryptids, well, I don't know. I guess there's a lot of places they could hide, and there might be a degree of covering up. But it's just one of those things where you would think there would be evidence of them because people are so sucky at keeping secrets. But maybe that's the reason why there's so many conspiracy theories. I guess that's could be the case as well.
3 murders were attributed to Bigfoot. Before we begin, thank you for...
You could very easily also see a scenario in which the government was doing some sort of thing where they were, I don't know.
Watching the Nonstop PsyOp podcast if you haven't.
Again, more and more these days, I just think the government really sucks at keeping secrets, more or less. So the secrets that will come out or do come out are probably a lot more mundane than you might think. I guess most of the stuff out there is probably stuff you either already suspect or you already know to be true somehow.
Topic you want to see us cover, comment down.
To be fair, though, there are a lot of Bigfoot sightings. So it's either some sort of... What is the phrase for that? There's a word for that. Some sort of collective delusion. Forgot what it was.
Below. We're trying to source all the topics and ideas from the audience so we have a level of participation. If you guys want to see behind the scenes stuff, join the Gump Club Discord server. We're on there every now and then. We're talking...
I think of something I would like to look at.
Talking about game development. We're talking about candy. We're talking about this third nipple situation that I've got right around here. It's kind of weird. Growing a third nipple right now, guys. High five. Oh, shit. This feels weird.
Oh, goodness.
This does actually feel strange. I feel like I'm performing. It feels different. I'm not used to doing videos that are
It's just
fun.
I was watching I was listening to Weird Al Yankovic's songs recently. Those are good. Those were all the rage. Like, I don't know when it was. Would have been like 2010s or thereabouts. Still really good. There's like spoofs of popular songs. Another one rides the bus. Another one goes.
That's right, guys. Nothing funnier.
I love Rocky Roads. I don't know if that'd be my favorite or not. What's the nerd one?
Than 3 murders being attributed to Bigfoot. So yeah, it's a standard podcast. We should have everything available on audio pretty soon, if not already, and Spotify and all that malarkey. So Nonstop PsyOp, sign up or whatever. October of 1993, the Emerald Triangle, the biggest, most remote weed-growing region in the country.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a point to be made, actually, that I think there is like a lot of both the planet Earth and just land in general that is not well settled. So in theory, yeah, there could be stuff hiding somewhere, I guess, especially in the ocean, I would imagine. There's enough stories about that. So like the notion of 20,000 leagues under the sea or something like that is a lot more believable to me than maybe something on land, I guess.
Specifically, a pot farm off...
And admittedly also, just weird crap happens. A lot of weird crap happens. So there's a lot of stories of... Yeah. It's enough for me not to want to dismiss it entirely as a notion, I suppose.
Spy Rock Road. A young David Holthouse, he'd later become an investigative journalist, and this is the story he'd spent years chasing, is working at the farm and tells a story of what happened that night. Holthouse is in the shared cabin that the workers use, and a young man comes in claiming that he had just seen something he could not make sense of. Let me guess. He saw Bigfoot. He had just seen at a fellow pot farm 3 buddies completely mutilated, mangled, torn limb from limb with blood scattered across the pot plant. These 3 men were Mexican migrant workers.
Bless you.
Who had come to work one of the neighboring pot farms. And this young man would go on to say he believed that the Sasquatch had done it, which is crazy, obviously, because we all know that there's not really any
Sasquatches don't murder people.
Real evidence of a Sasquatch, aside from Peter Kane, dog trainer. He's been showing off his corpse lately on Instagram Reels. I don't know if y'all have seen that. That shit's so funny.
It is not a mammal, and I do not believe that these are from the Earth. I believe that they're an interdimensional creature.
He's a comedian. He's an actual performance artist. Comedian guy. He's really funny, and he's got a real Bigfoot body.
So,
anyways,
I don't know if he's actually a comedian or if he's just saying that because he's funny.
I have derailed this, but that's the whole point of a podcast: is you derail stuff and just start yapping and talking. And normally, what I would cut out of a main channel video, I leave in here. I leave in here just on the floor. I just work across the middle of the room, just leaving stuff for you. What was that? My camera just went all black. That was weird.
Mm-hmm.
Oh shit, it did it again. That can't be good. I look like an idiot right now. So do you. We made the screen black on purpose so you'd see your own reflection in either
I did not see my own reflection.
the TV you're watching from in your living room.
Do you generally see your reflection in TV? Well, technically, I guess you see a reflection. Mine's, set up maybe in such a fashion that I don't normally.
Or your phone that you're watching this video from on the toilet or whatever. So, hello, my friend. You also look kind of like an idiot.
Okay,
but that's why we like each other.
I can kind of see something vague, but,
First, a little bit about...
Well, that's also something I wonder if they would have... Alright. We're back, and I don't know what I was saying.
Hello, my friend. You also look kind of like...
Oh, I was wondering... I was saying that I think they may have added something to the TV screens that would have made it less reflective, probably. Because I feel like back in the day, they would have been far more reflective. Back in the day of, like, VCRs or whatever, there would have been a lot more, like, actual reflection on the screen, but they might have added some sort of coding to it, so it's less so.
An idiot, but that's why we like each other. First, a little bit about our big-footed friend here. Stories of Bigfoot, also known as the Sasquatch, have persisted in the PNW.
The Indomitable Snow... No, what was the one? The abominable snowman.
Pacific Northwest
Is this? I'm assuming that's supposed to be in the same category, right?
for potentially hundreds of years, with Native Americans telling their stories of giant, hairy, crazy wild men. Even Teddy Roosevelt recalls an incident where he was told a tale where a fur trapper in the mountains on the Idaho-Montana border was violently murdered and ripped apart by a bipedal ape man.
Well, to be fair, apes already exist, so the notion there being some other species of ape, again, the stories aren't enough to necessarily make me believe, but they're it's not convincing enough in and of itself, but it's not nothing either. It's enough to make me wonder a little bit.
In 1924, in Ape Canyon, Washington, several miners reported ape-like beings in the canyon, throwing rocks at them and attempting to break into their cabin. That sounds horrifying. Back where I'm from in Virginia, we had stories of what's called the skunk ape. You ever heard of the skunk ape? My grandfather, notorious bullshitter, told us about the skunk ape. My dad and uncle, though,
Or the beeve coon.
have a story about the great white ape that they used to tell. Apparently, my grandparents went away to some gathering, some adult-only gathering where they would...
That's from iCarly, if you didn't know. I assume, anyways. I don't know if they got it from somewhere, or if there was actually an idea of something like that.
Dance and fraternize with other adults and drink and all this, nonsensical 80s fun stuff that they used to do. My father and his older brother stayed home. My dad, Jesse, and his brother, Matthew. And they had access to firearms because this is in the early mid 80s in Northern Virginia, in which you had hunter safety taught in school. So there was guns everywhere.
We had taken hunter safety, but I don't think it was at school. Technically, ours was a Christian day school, so I don't know if they would have had anything like that. I feel like that would actually probably be a good thing to do, at least if you had a smaller school or something like that. I don't know if it would be a good thing in public school and just in general, but kids should know how to handle guns responsibly, in my humble opinion. It's going to happen at some point or another. They're probably going to have a gun. It's probably better if they know how to not point it at people that they don't intend to shoot.
Everyone was very familiar with hunting and firearms, so they both had access to firearms. They claim that a great white ape, peered into the window.
So they're racist against white people.
On the front porch.
Wait a second. I thought the white apes were the abominable snowmen. I thought Sasquatches were the other ones. The more local variety of it. Yeti? That's Yeti is the whatchamit thing. That's the Oriental version, right? The version that they have over in China or whatever. I think that's what they do over there.
Scared them enough to when their parents got home, my grandparents got home, they were under the kitchen island with shotguns aimed at the doors, that afraid. And that's a real story from my grandparents and from my dad. And what makes it so startling and weird is those front windows looking in from the front porch. You have eye level pretty much, and the windows start there. So everything else is kind of underground, recessed underground. It's built on a hillside, the house is. So those...
Yeah. As I was thinking, you wonder if sometimes the government does weird shit like this just to distract people from what's going on. I just remember there's a whitest kids you know thing where he's just talking about all sorts of crap. About the moon bears or something like that. We don't know at present which gang of moon bears are hostile or whatever.
The front porch windows are really high up. So
FYI, I think it comes out that they were literally just invading Iran or something.
Something had to kneel down to look.
It's a funny sketch.
In there.
Oh, completely, I guess related to what I was talking about right there. Do you guys know that Mitchell and Webb actually came out with kind of a new sketch show type thing? I don't know if I like it or not. It's kind of, no, I think I like it. I think it's a poor, pale imitation of what they used to do, but it's still not bad. We'll see if they hit their stride or whatever. Also, they were talking about politics at one point, and again, I've said this before. There are very few actors I would care to hear the politics of. I don't know if it's. I don't think it's necessarily a thing that I have to agree with him. It's just a thing where I feel like, generally speaking, their insights are not the most informed or useful. Again, it's one of those things where making the point badly is worse than not making it at all. I think I've said that before. But yeah. Actors just shouldn't be allowed to speak about stuff that doesn't involve fact. No, I don't know. Again, very few. Very few I would care to hear talk about stuff like that. Anyways, enough drivel.
Into the kitchen to see them, and it scared them enough to where they hid around under their kitchen island with shotguns as they were, I don't know, 9 and 12 or 13 years old, and waited for their parents to get home. I've never seen anything that scary in my whole life. I do have...
That's crazy. Again, it just feels like a lot of weird crap happens. I've experienced enough, and you hear enough just to, make it so you're not willing to necessarily count some of that stuff out.
The Bigfoot experience that I believe I've shared, and I'll share it again towards the end of this video. But these modern stories of Bigfoot in California really began back in the 1880s in January of 1887. Jack Dover told...
Actually, one thing it was occurring to me that would be a great... It feels like in stories especially, the notion of like creating wonder is probably something that's far better accomplished through something like cryptids or whatever, rather than let's just create magic. Because it's one of those things that once you create a shortcut, you then have to explain why not everyone uses the shortcut. You could maybe virtue lock the magic or something like that, where it's like a sword and stone type of thing, where the reason why not everyone can use it is because you have to be such and such a good type of person or whatever. But another way to do that is just to create some sort of cryptid, because, it's completely plausible to us that, oh yes, chameleons can change the color of their skin. Why can't I change the color of my skin? Well, there's no particular reason. We're just different, right? But if another person can change the color of their skin through magic, the question is, okay, so why can't other humans do that? How do you put a bookend on this power that's effectively a shortcut? And if it did exist, why wouldn't everyone use it? The other way would maybe be to make it as dangerous or unstable as possible, or corrupting in some regard, or something like that. But again, it's one of those things. Once you introduce a shortcut, you then have to explain, well, why don't we use the shortcut every time? Yeah, that's my theory anyways.
The Del Norte record about his close encounter the year before with what was then called the Wild Man, up between Marble Mountain and Happy Camp in the Klamath backcountry of Siskiyou County. In Humboldt County, one of the 3 counties that make up the Emerald Triangle, doesn't become the heart of...
I didn't realize the Emerald Triangle is a thing. I'll have to look that up at some point.
Of this legend until the 1950s. The article goes on to say that Jack Dover was one of the most trustworthy citizens of the area, and that while hunting, he saw something standing 150 yards away from him. And that thing was gigantic, about 7 feet high, with a bulldog head, short ears, and long...
So here's a question. Is there, generally speaking, like a commonality between the stories about Bigfoot? Or are they always tend to be like really big?
Long, beautiful hair.
I'm just wondering about that, like the descriptions of it.
Had a beard. It was free from hair on parts of its body, similarly to a man. Had a shrill kind of voice, "Ah!" calling very high compared to that of a woman or a soprano like myself. "Ah!" Or Frankie, I guess. She's been banned from recording with me because she's too excitable now in her old age. She just barks at everything. She's always barked at everything.
It's kind of counterintuitive. You expect them to be more chill as they grow old.
But, I'm guilty of egging her on. I see that. I'm guilty of egging her on, but I figure it's fun to scream at stuff and yell and release energy, and I really enjoy doing it. And, I figure my dogs do as well. So we do it. We get crazy. We get real crazy. Whenever my dogs have
I feel like pugs are probably like the Habsburgs of dogs.
An excitable moment, I do everything I can to let them express it. I love when the dog gets happy and crazy. I love dogs, dude. Especially Frankie Boozeball. Frankie Boozeball. Come here, Frankie. Come here, Frankie. This isn't Frankie. This is Petey.
Look at that. That must entail some sort of incest, right? Just look at that. Look at that face.
Petey Gummo.
It's so ugly. It's cute. I think this one has got to be pretty old too, though. Look, I think they start to get that gray hair around their muzzle when they get older. So I'm assuming this one is rather old as well.
This is little PD. Live PD reaction. Oh, shit. Frankie. Oh. Frankie looks really good. She's 8 right now. She's 8 years old.
Nice. I also thought, like, I like dogs, but I hate the notion of buying something that's gonna die before me. Like, it feels kind of just sad that you see something come into the world, you see it grow up, you see it grow old, and then you see it die before. It's just not. It's not cool, man.
She is the healthiest pug in the
Parrots live forever. Tortoises, those can last a long time.
world, I would bet. She's incredible. She sleeps through the night. She loves her brothers and sisters, of which she has 4. And she's just the best dog in the entire world, and I love her so much. Her little stomach is like a little ball. She loves balls. Stand up so they can see your little rotten belly, Frankie. Good girl, look at that rotten belly.
I'm flexing. I'm flexing.
Aw. She's so good. She's been reading the Book of Mormon lately. Anyways, back to the high-pitched Sasquatch voice guy. He could not see its footprints as it walked on hard soil. He aimed his gun to shoot, but he could not find it in himself to shoot because of its close resemblance to that of a human. Because it probably was a guy. Since then, a number of people have seen it and all agree that their descriptions match that even of Mr. Dover, but some even report that it is taller, which that's...
Okay, so I'm getting a little bit lost here. This still has to do with the murders, right?
Very scary. There's nothing more horrifying to me than tall people. I cannot stand a big bitch, all right?
Small powers. I know I had mentioned that last week. I forgot what... No, I looked it up, literally. That sketch about dwarfs. Or small people, I don't know. Yeah, it's still hilarious. I think if you looked up, like, racist dwarf sketch, I'm not for sure, like, it might just be like the midget KKK or something like that. I'm not for sure. Hilarious video. But we're going to skip this part.
It wasn't until 1958 that
he meanders, and while it's fine to watch. I just don't know if I'd have much commentary on it.
Journalist Andrew Gonzoli of the Humboldt Times highlighted a letter from a reader about loggers in Northern California who discovered large footprints, some measuring up to 16 inches. While working in Six Rivers National Forest, logger Jerry Crew discovered these massive 16-inch footprints. He reported it to Andrew Gonzoli, who compared it to having our own abominable snowman. Gonzoli and fellow journalist Betty Allen would publish.
I wonder if there's a difference, like in the descriptions. So the only thing I would think of would have to do with like the color of the hair. That's the only really thing you would generally think of with regards to the difference there. I think Yetis at least are supposed to be white fur, right?
Follow-up articles about the footprints, reporting the name that loggers had given to the creature. Bigfoot. 2 words. How cool is that? That's where it came from, dude. You know who else is Bigfoot? Me. I have big-ass feet. 5'11", 12. I got a 12-inch foot, or size 12 foot. All right. And that's...
Again, I think he meanders a little bit. I don't know.
Isn't until 1967 with the Patterson-Gimlin film that people really start to have a strong conception of the Bigfoot. The Patterson-Gimlin film is probably one of the most famous pieces of Bigfoot media. Even if you don't know the name, you are very likely to have seen stills or a little bit of footage of the Patterson-Gimlin film. We're going to show it here in the video. It's pretty awesome. When I first saw the
I'm just looking at that, like, does the swinging of the arm seem at all unnatural?
Even if you don't know the name, you are very likely to have seen stills or a little bit of footage of the pattern.
Like there's almost too much. I guess I don't know. Seems a little bit strange.
Patterson-Gimlin film. We're going to show it here in the video. It's pretty awesome. When I first saw the Patterson-Gimlin film as a young boy, I said, that big guy. It was captured along Bluff Creek in the Six Rivers National Forest near where Del Norte, Humboldt, and Siskiyou counties meet. It contains shaky, grainy footage showing an upright hominid, fur-covered creature striding through a forest clearing. Beautiful rack of tits on it as well if you look real close. It turns and it looks at the camera at one point, and some scholars have said this is clear footage of a creature. Famously, Jeff Meldrum, the Idaho State University anthropologist who since passed away, may God rest his soul, reported that this is clearly a creature walking through the forest and it looks annoyed at people staring. People have a real devotion to this. They love the Patterson-Gimlin film footage. People have tattoos of this creature in its position with the tits walking. I have a guitar strap that was made by the
Strange.
the same leather worker that made a guitar strap for Blake Shelton that has the Bigfoot tits on it, that my mom got me for my birthday, actually, when I was a little boy, because she thought I'd really like it. And she didn't ask him to put tits on it, but he did. And I'm grateful. He put the tits on it. Sick. Look at the tits on that thing. That is crazy, dude. I wish I had tits like that.
Is
Now,
goofy.
one man named Bob Hieronymus, which is a crazy last name, claimed to have been the man in the suit. The Fun Police, more like. Roger Patterson died in 1972, only about 5 years after the film, and it wasn't until 2004, 4 decades later, that Hieronymus went public with the claim. He said, "I am the man in the suit," he said. "Hieronymus, I am the Fun Police. I am a hoaxer. I'm the Bigfoot." Blah, blah, blah. Now, Bob Gimlin, the other man shooting the footage, said that Hieronymus is a liar and that in the suit, he's not tall enough and he doesn't fit the
Interesting.
build of a Bigfoot. To this day, the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, or BFRO, reports that California still has the second highest number of Sasquatch sightings in the country, and Willow Creek within the Emerald Triangle calls itself the Bigfoot capital of the world. Now, Willow Creek is the gateway town to Bluff Creek, where the Patterson-Gimlin footage was filmed, and honestly, I would go check it out, guys. It's pretty cool. They do Bigfoot festivals. They're obsessed with it. They've made it their entire
I still want to look up Emerald Triangle. Yeah.
identity, which
All right. Does he ever get to where like the murders come into this? More of a cocaine guy. Why the hippies came here? Hell's Angels involved. What the? Cartel takeover. The alleged murders. All right. Let's jump here.
being upset that this was going on. So we get to the alleged murders. We have to say alleged because one, the murders have never been confirmed by any real law enforcement agency, and two, because these men were migrants and likely came to America illegally, so there's no record of them officially existing in California.
Gotcha.
But in the Hulu documentary Sasquatch, which is the first to really dig into this, growers in the Emerald Triangle say that these men were real. They came, they worked on a farm, and they were killed. And Holthouse talked to insiders close to this particular...
It would put you in kind of a little bit of a delicate position because, like, I imagine even if you hadn't helped them get into the country, like even employing people like that, at least at the time, would have probably been illegal and gotten you into trouble. It's kind of the whole like, don't want to go to the political side, but it feels like the whole notion of like. It feels like you can only really take the position of let's have completely open borders or let's just keep people out. Because, like, letting people across and allowing the smuggling to continue would, in theory, put people in a very dubious position with regards to their employers, where their employers can ask for all sorts of things because guess what? These people are illegal and, they can just report them if they don't do what they want. It sets up a very unfortunate dynamic between the individuals involved.
case who back that up. Sure, gonzo journalism aside, right? Anecdotes and all this stuff, but still. Holthouse has 3 main informants in particular around the death of these 3 men, and one of them is a longtime local named Ghost Dance. Real name, by the way. The other is a man who only goes by the name Razor. Real name, by the way. Razor
That's weird.
is an ex-con
Who would name someone Razor?
who knows what's been going on in the Hell's Angels
Oh, I take that back. There's certainly people who would do that type of thing.
corner of the pot growing industry. And then there's a third, unnamed redacted individual who would only speak to Holthouse under anonymity. Between them, these are the voices that quietly point away from Bigfoot and toward people actually running the farm. So, remember the scene from the start. The witness bursting into the bunk at Spy Rock, swearing he'd seen 3 men torn apart at a neighboring farm and that only Bigfoot could have done it. The detail that actually matters is that nobody stole any product, and the plants were fine except for a few that were broken. The guy telling it was strung out.
Uh-huh. I guess I don't know. Like, would you expect Bigfoot to steal product or damage stuff? You wouldn't consider it to be like a very precise killer, I guess.
Out on crystal meth, prone to erratic behavior. So you have 2 versions. There's the meth witness version, bodies torn apart by a monster, and the other is with the sober sources actually back. 3 men showed up, worked on a farm, and were never seen again. Pretty different claims, only one of them needs Bigfoot. Through Ghost Dance, the anonymous source would reach out to Holthouse and tell him that these men were not killed by Bigfoot, and that this was carried out by armed humans involved in a Hells Angels-led pot-growing operation.
I mean, that's where the Hells Angels came into it.
So, Holthouse agrees to meet with this anonymous source. He refuses to be on camera because he's since gone straight. I assume that means he's no longer gay. He's out of the game. No longer affiliated with any club. He decides to tell Holthouse the entire truth of what happens, and after they meet at a restaurant, they're having some wine. He doesn't open up to Holthouse about anything until everyone clears out of the restaurant. At this point, he finally tells Holthouse that he's heard Holthouse has been asking around about 3 Mexican guys. Someone, a name the documentary bleeps out, Greased, back in '93. Greased as in killed. The informant then tells Holthouse that the man he just named, the alleged killer, worked on a pot farm run by the Hells Angels. And when Holthouse asks whether he himself is in danger from this guy, the informant says yes. The alleged killer is someone who has...
So, do the Hells Angels exist anywhere but California? Because I'd heard that name, and I think I'd heard it in The Mentalist or something. So I assume it's kind of a bike gang from California, unless they're like international or whatever the crap. Maybe there's different chapters in different places, I suppose.
Sicked the Hells Angels on people before and would do it again, and that Holthouse needs to be careful with this investigation. Now, in the documentary itself, Holthouse and the filmmakers deliberately never named the alleged killer. They bleeped it out for their own safety and I guess ours. It's a Voldemort sort of situation. But there is a name, and the name that I'm about to give comes from one place only, a Reddit user. In May of 2024, a user said that he was inspired by the document.
Again, not nothing, but maybe not compelling in and of itself. I'm just thinking Reddit is not it's not Kiwi Farms exactly, but it's also not exactly the soul of maybe integrity.
And went to investigate himself, claiming the alleged killer died back in 2022. Some people ask how he found his name, and he says the name is never given, but they give up enough info on it to leave only one possibility. He cross-referenced some info in the documentary along with some online articles and was able to figure out who the killer was. According to that Reddit user, his name was Michael Griffin. The post says he died in 2022 at the age of 54, which is pretty young, so if that's true, no one's in danger from him anymore, and he was a known Hells Angels affiliate. Now, this is all alleged, but it was mainly through Ghost Dance that this user pieced this guy together. Griffin knew Ghost Dance, and there was talk of his affiliation with the Hells Angels. There was a weed bust where they took his guns away and ended up getting him back. He was never arrested or charged with murder because people wanted it to be Bigfoot. Holthouse had briefly spoken to the alleged killer on the phone in the movie, and there were 3 busts off Spy Rock Road tied to him as well. So how does this tie to Bigfoot, ultimately? Why was Bigfoot the fall guy for this murder? Part of it was that Bigfoot was just already everywhere out there. Growers
Yeah. So, Hells Angels guy kills a whole bunch of guys and uses Bigfoot as a patsy. That's what I'm hearing. Or, alternatively, Bigfoot 100% did it. You never know. Alright, you guys can go watch the parts I skipped, I guess. A town that blamed Bigfoot for a triple murder. And it's non-stop psyop. Yeah, psyop. Okay, so psyop starts with a P. Sorry, I was glitching out there. Non-stop psyop, episode 1 by Oompaville. Alright. Moving on. Nobody cares how stoic you are. Anima animus. If this gets all weird, you might jump off. Okay? I'm not into some sort of strange Hindi guru stuff, so We'll see how it turns out. Second.
So we're doing a lecture on anima and animus. So anima and animus are archetypes. They are Jungian archetypes.
Okay. Did not know that.
And we'll explain what that is in a second. There's stuff floating around in our subconscious, okay? But someone asked a brilliant question, which is, are Jungian archetypes too abstract to apply clinically? And my answer to that question was basically yes. So in preparation of this lecture, okay, which I'll just tell you a little bit about how I came onto this lecture. So we did a lecture on
like, I guess that is the question. Is sometimes stuff that works on a psychological level, just on a personal level, is something that they couldn't really use in a medical sense. I don't know.
Eternus, which like cracked something open in this community. It's one of our most successful like set of lectures. People were like, holy crap, this is me. And then what I noticed is that there's like a lot of problem with like dating and mating, right? People are struggling to connect. That's why we made the guide to love, sex, and relationships. And there's like something deeper going on here. There's like something.
Well, I was just thinking, because of the title, Nobody Cares How Stoic You Are, this might be one that I may or may not disagree with him on. Because normally I think I tend to agree with him a lot on a lot of stuff, but this
Thing going on at a very deep level in society that is making it hard for human beings to connect. So I was reading this set of essays by, I think, Emma Jung on anima and animus, and I was like, holy crap, this is...
I guess I tend to like the notion of stoicism in general, so I'm not sure if he likes it or dislikes it in this scenario. Because like, the notion is that I think sometimes in life, there's not really a good way to get out of pain. So the alternative is to get better at going through pain. Get better at just, to keep pushing.
Describing, like, almost perfectly what we are experiencing. Okay, I'm going to just show you guys real quick. So as long as the projection succeeds, that is, as long it's the image corresponds to a certain degree with the I have to explain this. So someone asked in chat, is this too abstract for clinical stuff? And that's my frustration. So when I was preparing for this lecture, I asked a bunch of people, I was like, hey, do you guys like have any texts about Jungian archetypes that are clinical, that show like, how does this show up in someone? Because most of the stuff on Jungian archetypes is not clinical. It's like fairy tale analysis. They're like, oh, we can see this archetype represented in this fairy tale. And if you look at like, the Christian mythology, theology of like the Virgin Mary, like what is this? The Virgin Mary is the ultimate anima archetype. The Virgin Mary is...
I had no idea.
Someone who is a perfect mother, but she remains pure. She's not been defiled by a sexual act. She is virginal in her purity, and she is a mother. She's like this fundamental contradiction of pure purity and pure motherhood. So this is what I would find. And I was like, but...
I still don't know what anima and animus is, so maybe you'll go into
Hold on a second. There's something going on here where like men and women are struggling. We're having all kinds of problems, okay? And like something is going on here, but I don't know how to apply this. So part of the reason that...
There's a question too sometimes where like, I've said this before, I don't like the notion of even really studying like neuro stuff or whatever. So now it kind of, to me, just subverts, like it kind of undercuts the human experience. So the question would be, is it more useful, like you could put it in terms of like a car. If I know how the car works, if I'm studying how the car works on a fundamental level, breaking down the parts, or for that matter, if you go further and you understand how all the mechanics of like the matter involved works, the metallurgy or just the atoms or the alloys involved, will you be able to drive the car better if you know all of this stuff? Will it help you materially be able to operate the car in a more efficient way? So like that would be a highly debatable topic as to whether it would actually help you. I just know how to drive. I just need to know how to drive the car if I want to get it to where it's going. Perhaps to some extent, sometimes empirical knowledge is more practically useful than the really fundamental understanding of it. And again, in regards to neuroscience, it feels like it just tends to kneecap like my experience. It's like it somehow, the fact that I'm trying to understand it in terms of intellectualism subverts the notion of trying to just experience it on an emotional level or a conscientious level. It's like, I don't know. I think I've made this point before, but the notion is that when you use the manner in which, maybe I haven't said something like this, but I think the manner in which you observe or experience a thing determines the way in which you think about it and understand it. And I think a lot of people maybe fall into the trap of trying to intellectualize everything. And maybe there is an intellectual aspect to a lot of things, but that doesn't mean that's the way you really make it work or really understand it, perhaps. I don't know. And I think there's multiple ways of understanding things, at the very least.
We reschedule the lecture is like, what I've tried to do is break down anima and animus in a clinical way, because I'm a clinician. So I'm not a Jungian psychoanalysis analyst. I am a old school psychiatrist who does psychotherapy and psychopharm and meditation, all this kind of stuff. So basically,
Well, to be fair, like the meditation thing might not be so old school, but
today what we're going to try to do is explain what the archetypes are. So first,
dang it, I was putting this thing over there. All right. All right, there we go.
what is archetype? And then we're going to explain what anima and animus is. But we're also going to look at
Okay.
the
Weren't
problems
these,
of a
character tests all the rage a while back? Maybe they're still a thing. They have to do with archetypes or people defining what they are.
disconnected anima and a disconnected animus. And then we're going to talk about possession by the anima and animus. And each of these has a clinical picture, like a clinical presentation. Then we're going to talk about how the anima and animus affects us relationally. So if I have problems with my anima and animus, it is going to affect the relationships that I form, okay? So just to give you all a quick example, let me find this real quick. Here's an example, okay? It derives its authority from its connection with the universal mind, but the force of suggestion it exercises is due to the woman's own passivity in thinking and her corresponding lack of critical ability. Such
So,
opinions or concepts
is this supposed to be Jung? Because I can't imagine a lot of modern day scholars going so far as to speak this way about women. You guys know that I'm thinking Friedrich Nietzsche had some really interesting ideas about women. I think he was noted as quoting in one of his books. I don't think he said it himself, but he was noted as quoting, I think, someone who it wasn't a critical quote. He wasn't coming after her, as I understand it, but it was like something to the effect that if you're going to meet your woman, don't forget the whip. He's a interesting fellow, and I think he was rather unlucky in love, as it were, which might have been the OG incel, so to speak.
usually brought out with great aplomb are especially characteristic of the animus. They are generally
Aplomb. I like that one. Don't even know what it means. I think it has to do with kind of presence, maybe? Something like that.
valid concepts or truths, which though they may be quite true in themselves, do not
So I've heard of people doing things with great aplomb. I don't know if it would have to do almost with sanctimony, but in a good way, or I don't know. Yeah, I'm just thinking of like presence or charisma, maybe. I'm not for sure.
not fit in the given instance because they fail to consider what is individual and specific in a situation. Ready?
Wait, hold on. Let me go back with this. So, her corresponding lack of critical ability, such opinions or concepts usually are brought out with great aplomb, are especially characteristic of the animus. They are generally characteristic in that, corresponding to the principles of logos, they are generally valid concepts or truths, which, though they may be quite true in themselves, do not fit a given instance because they fail to consider what is individual and specific in a situation. Ready-made, incontrovertible, valid judgments of this kind are really only applicable in mathematics, where 2 times 2 is always 4. But in life, they do not apply, for they do violence.
Made Incontrovertible, valid judgments of this kind are really only applicable in mathematics, where 2 times 2 is always 4. The same sort of unrelated thinking also appears in a man when he is identified with the reason or logos principle and does not himself think, but lets it think. Such men are naturally especially well suited to the embody of the animus in a woman, okay? I know that's kind of like a random thing, but what I want y'all to pay attention to is they're talking about something called animus possession. And in animus possession, what happens in this person's mind is they come up with these factory-produced styles of thinking, and they trot them out. Here are these truths based on mathematical principles, but there's no room for individuality. This is a...
Yeah, that is kind of like the notion of having like axiomatic ideas is good, but it feels like quite often life is rarely so cookie cutter that you can just come up with like categorizations for everything. Like it feels like it's a lot more improvisation than actual planning in my mind.
Sign of animus possession, okay? And this is like a book that was written by Emma Jung like 100 years ago. Okay, so can you...
Okay, so it was a woman who wrote it. Okay. That makes it, I guess, more acceptable.
You guys think of in dating and mating.
Yeah, I don't know.
Do we have a situation where people are trotting out universal truths as if they are mathematics that
Yeah, hashtag red pill.
remove all individuality from the equation? Okay, are we pretending like things that are individual and highly variable are actually scientific, not even scientific, mathematical proofs?
Well, so I do tend to think that generalizations can be made quite safely a lot of the time. But again, like you have to act like the individual in front of you is actually an individual quite often as well.
This is a sign of animus possession. This is something that Emma Jung talked about almost 100 years ago. She was like, by the way, there's this pattern, okay? And it's...
Okay. I didn't know there was an Emma Jung. I was thinking Carl Jung somehow.
Because of this, that I think that anima and animus is so...
I'm assuming they're related, maybe? I can't imagine there being a lot of, like, I don't know.
So important to talk about. And then finally, we're going to talk about constellating, which is how we fix it. Okay, this is what we're going to cover today. So let's start with the basic. What is an archetype? Jung noticed something kind of interesting. He noticed that if you go across cultures, there are these primitive things in our unconscious mind which are universal across cultures. So it's like, this is kind of interesting, right? Because we're all conditioned by our environment. But what he noticed is that there's this fundamental masculine thing in our unconscious. This is what he called the animus. And the animus is that which deals with the external world.
Well, the notion would be that if you think of reality as being a schoolmaster of sorts, certainly there would be commonalities with regards to anyone taught by the same schoolmaster, right? So there would be certain universal ways of understanding things. Like I tend to think like there is, to some extent, a right way of seeing things and a wrong way. There's a lot of variability, perhaps even an infinite amount of variability, but there's also characteristics when it comes to life or perception or perspective. As much variability as there is, there still is these commonalities.
So is externally oriented, is logical, is like motivated to accomplish. It is fundamental.
Yeah. Based.
Fundamentally the way that a human being, so he like looked across cultures and he was like, okay, there's this basic thing that some human beings, or not some, all human beings have the capacity to deal with the external world. And dealing with the external world involves a set of skills, right? It's interpreting information, it's some amount of analysis, it's building things in the outside world, it's shaping the outside world, it's interacting with the outside world. It's logical. So he kind of lumped these things together. And he said, you know what, this is what we're going to call the masculine principle. Because if you look at men, especially in Jung's time, right? Men are people who go out and they build things. They shape the external world. They build tree houses. They don't talk about their feelings. That is what the work of men, okay? Then what he also noticed is that there was an internal principle as well. There's an inner sense of being, a sense of feeling, a sense of connection, a sense of relation, not shaping, but relating, connecting. And he's like, these are these two lumps of stuff. One is an internal orientation and one is an external orientation. And because the society was very gendered in that time, people associated masculinity with external stuff, with accomplishment, with logic, and women are emotions, feeling, internal, relation.
See, I tend to like. I tend to think that type of stuff doesn't necessarily change. I would say the notion would be that gender roles aren't absolute. There can be exceptions, but they are quite intuitive. There's a reason why they exist, and there's a reason why they tend to exist like across civilizations. It wasn't just something that was developed in the West or whatever. Like, it was something that was pretty universal with regards to men go out and fight and hunt and do all the dangerous stuff, whereas women tend to take care of the home and, take care of the children more so. Again, they're not absolute. There can be exceptions to the rule, but they're pretty intuitive.
Connection. But this is really important to understand. What Jung said is that these are not male and female, they're masculine and feminine. Loneliness is at an all-time high. Sexlessness is at an all-time high. Relationships are probably in the worst state they've ever been in the history of humanity. And that's why I made Dr. K's Guide to Love, Sex, and Relationships.
Yeah. You should be doing that type of thing when you're an Indian. Isn't there stereotypes about that? Okay. Sorry, nothing against that. I'm sure I just don't want to hear about it.
These are primitive parts of our unconscious mind. If you look at any human being on the planet, there's a part of us that wants to shape and interact with the external world, and there's a part of us that has an inner sense of being, feeling, aliveness, and connection. This is what he called animus, and this is what he called anima. Now, back in the day, animus and anima...
There's, like, I'd mentioned something like this before, but the notion would be that there might be a reason why emotions or conscience or stuff like that is comparatively abstract when it comes to like perception or experience. Like, the notion would be that your perception would inevitably be oriented most directly towards the things that are the most stimulating, I mean, things that shift the most, or perhaps the things that would threaten you the most, versus the things that remain established, that are comparatively unchanging. Your perception towards them would be comparatively abstract or non-existent. You don't really appreciate them. You don't really notice them or whatever like that. So it's kind of an interesting notion as to like why our internal experience quite often just seems like it's not real, if you will. Like, it's not a real thing, because compared to our external experience, compared to all of this stuff going on, the stimuli that we're bombarded with, it feels like it pales in comparison to it. Again, it's not real in comparison to all of that. So I don't know.
Mapped on...
It's interesting to think about in any case.
More to men and women. So we used to live in highly gendered societies where men were more animus-oriented and women were more anima-oriented, okay? So each of us, okay, so man or woman, both of us have animus and anima. And animus is external, logical, accomplishment, driven, challenging, okay? And anima is internal, feeling, connecting, being, nurturing. And he sort of said, okay, every human being on the planet has these two qualities. And these are archetypal things. So what is an archetype? It is a very deep-rooted pattern that lives in our unconscious. So if you look at your life, you have a part of you that is externally oriented, a part of you that is internally oriented. You have a part of you that is logical, a part of you that is feeling. Literally, like now, remember, this is like Jung, okay? So this is around the year 1900.
So I'm getting goofed up here. There's an Emma Jung and a Carl Jung involved here.
120 years ago, let's say. I think he was around 1900, okay? And now, like back then, they didn't know that there was left brain and right brain. Right? They didn't know that there was the amygdala feeling portion of our brain, and there was like the logical portion of our brain, the analytical portion of our brain, that language is over here on the left in Broca's area and Wernicke's area, right? And there's
didn't actually know that.
Some emotional circuits over on the right. So our limbic system is more right brain. They didn't know that stuff, but they just observed it. They sort of noticed, okay? And then Emma Jung really did a lot of this work. So then what they noticed is every person...
Oh, so they are, I assume they are related. Whether it's his wife or his someone.
Person has an anima and every person has an animus. And what we want is a healthy balance between the two. We want an integration between these two things. Is that my life is a balance of going out and accomplishing things in the world. And
Yeah, I just feel like quite often in life, people's point. It seems like your answer to an extreme can't be another extreme. Like you should want to become a more well-balanced individual, if that makes sense.
and being one with myself, that I have logic and I have emotion. But then what happens
Well, for that matter, like obviously there are natural tendencies. I think women do tend to be more that way. Men do tend to be a certain way as well. But it does feel like I don't know. You should want like a complete set of observations or ability to notice things, right? Like you could imagine a man walking through a blackened room, right? A dark room. The fact that he can't see all of the stuff in the room doesn't mean he's not going to trip over it. And whether or not you're capable of feeling emotion, it's still something you're going to have to contend with to some extent. I think it's not just a out of sight, out of mind type of thing. If you're a person who's blind, it doesn't change the fact that you're going to get sunburned if you sit out in the sun for long enough. And certainly it would be better to either have someone who could see that and lead you through to help you navigate these realities, or to be able to see it yourself, generally speaking.
in some people is one of the forces.
That's what I reckon in any case.
The forces can become imbalanced. And this is where the abstraction becomes clinical, okay? So we can disconnect from one. So there are some people who are disconnected from their animus. So as a human being, I have an animus and I have an anima. And if I get disconnected from one, what happens is the other one kind of becomes dominant. So I can have a life where I'm way too emotional, way too internally focused. I don't.
Well, in addition to that, I feel like there are scenarios in which a person, because of their environment, like I do think people, they figure out what works. They're really good at figuring out what works for their position in their environment, whatever the case is. And because of that, there's a lot of like, I think I talked about this in last week's episode. No, might have been this week's episode of Point, Laugh, and Study or whatever. But it does feel like there are a lot of people who have adaptive behaviors that work in a certain environment, but are not just broadly speaking healthy, if that makes sense. They work for where they are, but they're not something you would actually like. They're like on a broader scale, they're not healthy for the individual.
Deal with the vagaries of the external world. Man, all those plebs who are always like out there working dead-end jobs and clawing out a pathetic living in life, right? All these dirty people out
He's so shallow.
there who are trying to claw out some kind of low meaning.
Yeah, preach it, brother.
No, I'm more grand. I'm not gonna debase myself to join the rat race of the normal world, the external world.
Not gonna sell out.
I'm going to be philosophical. I'm going to be intellectual. I'm going to be...
This feels like it's like the archetype for a spoiled brat. Someone who can afford not to worry about the external world.
Follow the deeper things, the spiritual things.
I don't know if you guys ever watched Beverly Hillbillies, like the old version of it. There was a whole thing where Sonny Drysdale seems like he's kind of the quintessential spoiled brat or whatever. Someone who's raised by people who are rich. And, yeah, he kind of takes this approach to money and whatnot. It does feel like the children of rich people, quite often, because they never had to worry about money or stuff like that, they tend to... I don't know. There's stereotypes. Perhaps warranted generalizations about those types of people.
Pierce the veil of reality to understand the metaphysical nature of the world. I'm not going to actually go get a PhD in physics and do math problems. I'm going to contemplate quantum mechanics and synchronicity on Reddit, right? I'm not going to engage with this dirty, oh my God, like I have to fill out applications and fill out surveys and get my, oh my God, I'm not going to do that, right? Do you see how these people are, they're not able to engage with the external world. But we also have cases of animus and disconnected anima. These are people who are not connected to their inner being. In the same way, I ain't going to deal with feelings. Facts don't give a F about your feelings. Feelings
Yo, shots fired. Take that, Ben Shapiro.
Are useless. Feelings are low. Feelings are pathetic. I'm going to focus on mathematics. I'm going to focus on ROI. I'm going to focus on analysis. This is how you succeed in the external world. No one gives a crap how you feel. Feelings
Yeah.
are to be conquered. They're to be severed. I'm going to use drugs. I'm going to use steroids. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to have bitches. I'm going to have cars. I'm going to be big on the outside. That is where success lies. This being content with yourself on the inside, being able to feel, being a pussy who focuses on nurturing and feeling.
He does a very good impression of like a red pill guy.
Oh,
Just saying. Almost like it comes naturally.
oh my God. How pathetic is that? Sound familiar? Right? Oh, no. But someone's saying, I was about to say true until he said drugs and steroids. But think about it. Drugs are the ultimate way to deal with internal feeling. They're our way of exerting control. What I feel on the inside is not worth anything. I just need it to stop. So give me a little bit of that vitamin K. Let me roll up to Wall Street, and my job as an investment banker. I'm going to go down from the 68th floor of the building that I'm in on Wall Street. I'm going to go into the mobile ketamine clinic, which is a bus that parks outside of my building. And
Yes. Steroids just in general seems like a terrible
I'm going to get injected with vitamin K. Okay? You guys understand? And by the way, I'm going to show you all some cool quotes, okay, of both of these things, and it's going to be hilarious. So this is a lopsided animus, and this is a lopsided anima, where we disconnect from a part of ourselves. And this, Jung, Emma Jung, and Carl Jung both said that both of these are fundamentally unhealthy. You won't be a healthy human being. But there's another thing that can happen. So this is called disconnection, and this manifests in a particular clinical way, okay? Clinical in the sense of like shows up in a human being, not in the sense of like diagnosis. This is the picture, which I sort of modeled for y'all, okay? And oh yeah, when Dr. K says, oh my God, I think anima and animus is so helpful in us understanding things, this is not me making these connections, okay? This is me just using the current version, but we will literally see versions of this. Then something weird happens. There's something called possession. So this is when we have the anima and animus. Let's say anima sucks, I'm all animus. But then something weird happens. This part of our unconscious, we can try to bury it, but it is like a fundamental part of us. We can't really get rid of it. No matter how much I think that emotions are dumb, right? Emotions are useless. Emotions are a waste of my time. Facts don't care about your feelings. At the end of the day, I still have a limbic system. That part of my brain.
Yeah, that's true. Like the notion, like you're trying to externalize something that is not going to get away from you. It is a fundamental part of who you are. And there's a problem too with, I think, people these days, to some extent, they can see somehow fundamental characteristics as the same as some sort of like, I don't know, like as something malevolent almost. It's kind of one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, okay, so you have fundamental characteristics which do entail limitations, but I don't think it's safe to conflate that with like an actual limitation, like an omnidirectional, like being put in a box, right? So you have, well, black people, they were enslaved, we're slaves to our own desires. It's really the same thing, right? Well, not really. Most people wouldn't feel safe conflating those two things. Having a characteristic is not the same as being put in a box. You could just, I don't know.
It is like there.
And I was just thinking like where he's going with this. The notion is that if you externalize something like emotion, but this emotion is still attached to you, how do you think about that? Like it would, in theory, present itself as a possessive force, something that's controlling you even though you don't want it to.
Similarly, in my mind, which is different from the brain, right? In my mind, there is a part of me that is nurturing. There is a part of me that is inner, no matter how much I try to make it go away. So then something weird happens. The anima actually possesses the animus, and this becomes a puppeteer, okay? So what does this mean? This means that on the outside, I appear to be very logical. I appear to be very analytical. But behind my logic and behind my analysis, emotions actually control me. I become highly sensitive to criticism because internally I can't handle it. I need to prove that.
This actually, see, it maps on pretty well to like some of what you observe in life. Because you do tend to see like people who are highly intellectual getting like, almost like having like incongruous reactions. It's like they want to come off as completely logical, completely critical thinking, skeptical, whatever the case, but it feels like that they're sometimes the most defensive, dogmatic sorts of individuals.
I'm
It's
wrong.
strange.
I become highly sensitive, or not sensitive, paranoid to manipulation. I'm worried about people
To be fair, I'm quite paranoid about manipulation.
always manipulating me. I'm paranoid about people manipulating me. Why? Because I'm not anchored in myself. So what I discover in these people, the people who are anima possessed, are hyper analytical, hyper logical, but they're incredibly moody. They're actually like, when we talk about the fragile masculine ego, like look at this alpha who's like got a bunch of money and got a bunch of muscles and all this kind of stuff. But like, you're like, yeah, man, you're pathetic, bro. And they're like, oh, they can't tolerate.
Sorry, I was just thinking. He almost looks simian there. I think I think that was maybe what he was going for, actually. It's not a racist thing. I think that's what he was going for. Okay.
They pick fights with middle-aged dudes who have 3 loving kids on the internet and try to flex
Was that a reference to the Andrew Wilson thing?
on them. They have to put everyone in their place.
I think that was like a Wade Watson and Andrew Wilson thing where like there was that whole thing where Andrew Wilson and Wade Watson were on a show together, some sort of panel, and Wade Wilson is like, I have money. I have more money than you ever. Like,
actually incredibly emotional creatures. They're very unstable. They do things like get up and walk out of interviews because they can't tolerate a conversation.
clavicular? This guy's more dialed in than I think he lets on.
They're incredibly emotional.
Maybe he doesn't even pretend not to be dialed in.
But they're the last to realize it, right? They go picking ego fights because hold on a second, but you have all this money, you have all this fame, you have all of this stuff, you have all these big muscles. Why are you picking a fight with a random dude who's got 3 kids? Like, what? Why are you doing that? And they don't have a good answer for it. They're like, oh yeah, like I'm doing it for fun. Wait, hold on a second. What about that is fun? They don't know because they're not connected to their inner being. So the anima actually puppets their animus. Their feeling actually drives their analytical thinking. Okay? Then we have animus possession. We're lopping off our analytical portion. And so this part of us that tries to control.
See, there's a part of me, I don't know if I can conceptualize how it would look to go the other way. Maybe he'll explain it, and it'll click.
Tries to restrain, tries to get the world to conform. Remember, this is external and this is internal. So these people too, their animus starts controlling their anima. So in the case of animus possession, we see a different kind of picture. So you can sort of think about someone who is like a woman who has severed off all of her feeling and has become hyper animus. So this is a person who, when we get animus possession, this is someone who lives in the realm of fantasy. So they can't do anything in the outside world, but that drive to do things in the outside world infects their internal world. So these are
Interesting.
People who build castles in their mind. They're highly theoretical.
So the artists, right?
Their desire to create, their desire to analyze, their desire to accomplish in the external world gets flowed into their imagination because they're
like I'm just thinking like that would be kind of the artistic stereotype a little bit, maybe, right? Like almost a little bit self-absorbed but highly creative in that regard. Like
they're too stuck, right? Their anima shifted. So they're shifted internally. So all of their external drive manifests internally. So they build up idealized versions of themselves. They have a beautiful...
Give me a second.
Full example of the perfect version of themselves. They have this logical idea of the perfect self, but that perfect self lives within them. The perfect self cannot grapple with the muddiness of the outside world. Okay? Then we get to the
Interesting. Again, I don't have as clear of a picture of what that would actually look like. But
relational component, but I think I'm going to explain some of this stuff. When we're disconnected from our animus, when we're disconnected from our feeling portion. So anima disconnection started to happen a lot with feminism. Not me saying this, is Emma Jung saying this. So there used
based.
to be a period of time where men did one thing and women did another thing. And then a couple of fundamental things changed in the world. So Emma Jung talks about this. So one of the animus activities most difficult to see through lies in this field, namely the building up of a wish image of oneself. The animus is expert at sketching in and making a plausible picture that represents us as we would like to be seen. The ideal lover, the selfless handmaiden, the extraordinarily original person, right? Which is now being intersected with the sycophancy of AI, which is now telling you AI
The appealing helpless child, the selfless handmaiden.
is not telling you, yeah, you are extraordinary.
See, okay, maybe I'm getting a clearer picture of it a little bit. Because there would tend to be people who would maybe, because they're so far inside their own heads, it's really hard for them to see things as being distinct or independent from oneself. Like they see, like, I don't know if it would, like, monomany would be the right term, but they become like very self-referential, and it's hard for them to see other entities as being distinct or disparate from themselves because they're so far inside their own head. I don't know. Maybe I'm not understanding it, but like that would be the idea I would get. And you get people who I think are incapable of believing in the notion of evil or that anyone is really bad. And I think that can be a really unfortunate way to look at the world. Like to see everything through the lens of your own existence and to try and reference everything off of your own existence. Because I think sometimes literally you just there are things that are just disparate enough. They're fundamentally different enough. They're not like you, not in any meaningful sense. And maybe that's kind of some of the issues that some people go through. I don't know.
Really original. Your ideas are revolutionizing quantum mechanics. This is quantum biology, bro. You're really breaking barriers that no one else has broken. And this person is spending their time, or they're spending their time in the external world? No. This is the animus being filtered through.
And again, I think it would have to do with like artistic stereotypes or stuff like that. Maybe that's kind of where I would see it in the world. Anyways, you guys can go check out the rest of this video if you want. Nobody cares how stoic you are. Anima animus. I don't know if you ever got to that part about stoicism or something, but check out the rest of that if you like. All right, the Battle of Thermopylae. Thermopylae. All right. Yeah, bunch of dudes need to dress. It was fought in 480 BC at Thermopylae between Archimedes, the Achaemenid Persian Empire under Xerxes, and an alliance of Greek city-states led by Sparta under Leonidas I, lasting over the course of 3 days. It was one of the most prominent battles of both the Second Persian invasion of Greece and the wider Greco-Persian Wars. The Battle of Artemisium between July and September during the Second Persian invasion under Xerxes was a delayed response to the failure of the First Persian invasion, which had been initiated by Darius I and ended in 490 BC by an Athenian-led Greek victory at the Battle of Marathon. By 480 BC, a decade after the Persian defeat at Marathon, Xerxes had amassed a massive land and naval force and subsequently set out to conquer all of Greece. In response, the Athenian politician and general Themistocles proposed that the allied Greeks block an advance of the Persian army at the pass of Thermopylae, while simultaneously blocking the Persian navy at the Straits of Artemision. Around the start of the invasion, a Greek force of approximately 7,000 men, including an estimated 300 Spartans led by Leonidas, marched north to block the pass of Thermopylae. Ancient authors vastly inflated the size of the Persian army, with estimates in the millions, but modern scholars estimate between 120,000 and 300,000 soldiers. It's still a pretty big difference. They arrived at Thermopylae by late August or early September. The outnumbered Greeks held them off for 7 days, including 3 of direct battle, before their rear guard was annihilated in one of history's most famous last stands. During 2 full days of battle, Greeks blocked the only road by which the massive Persian army could traverse the narrow pass. After the second day, a local resident named Ephialtes revealed to the Persians the existence of a path leading behind the Greek lines. Subsequently, Leonidas, aware that his force was being outflanked by the Persians, dismissed the bulk of the Greek army and remained to guard their retreat, along with 300 Spartans and 700 Thespians. Sorry. Every time I hear Thespians, it sounds like something that's vaguely indecent. Alright, okay, so Thespian at this point would have meant something different, right? Because these days Thespian has to do with, like an actor, if I'm not mistaken. Alright, it has been reported that others also remained, including up to 900 Heliots, 400 Thebans, with the exception of the Thebans, most of whom reportedly surrendered. The Greeks fought the Persians to the death. Themistocles was in command of the Greek naval force at Artemision when he received news of the Persians had taken the pass of Thermopylae. Since the Greek defense strategy required both Thermopylae and Artemisia to be held, the decision was made to withdraw to the island of Salamis. The Persians overran Boeotia and captured the evacuated city of Athens. The Greek fleet, seeking a decisive victory over the Persian armada, attacked and defeated the invading force at the Battle of Salamis in late 480 BC. Wary of being trapped in Europe, Xerxes withdrew much of his army to Asia, reportedly losing many of his troops to starvation and disease, while also leaving behind the Persian military commander Mardonius to continue the Achaemenid Empire's Greek campaign. However, the following year saw the Greek army decisively defeat Mardonius and his troops in the Battle of Plataea, ending the Second Persian invasion. Both ancient and modern writers have used the Battle of Thermopylae as a flagship example of the power of an army defending its native soil. The performance of the Greek defenders is also used as an example of the advantages of training equipment and the use of terrain as force multipliers. Not bad. Nice. Alright, we have a video game called Voidling Bound that's pretty recent release. It might still be in early access, but I like it. So probably play some of that. I might have to disconnect my camera, or whatever the Harry. We'll see, because I kind of want to use a controller, and unfortunately that requires a plug-in for me. right? Yeah, we're good. We're good. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to. You guys won't see my delightful face, but I feel like you probably prefer to hear me rather than see me. Nice. Alright. Now, I'm thinking. Go. P.S. To whom it may concern, I did actually finish that Age of Empires campaign. Turns out you only had to destroy one of the castles, which is kind of anticlimactic. I thought you were going to have to destroy all three, but it ended up just easy. I had found a dock with some transport ships that really helped. And I just created it involved 2 castles and created a buttload of petards. So, again, kind of anticlimactic. Climactic. There we go. Alright, you know, actually, I should just start a new story. I've got to the point where I kind of don't like the notion of playing games on really hard. Because it feels like for me, just like the harder the game is, the more obsessed I kind of get with regards to it. So the whole notion is just kind of, yeah. I don't like getting obsessed with it. I don't like going under for extended periods of time. If that makes sense. I hope this game runs on this. So I was using my other computer, which is, I think, older. I think it's older, but it might be a little bit better, actually. I'm running it on a laptop right now. Alright, let's go. Okay. There we go. Fighter. It's not the hardest. A little bit of a challenge, but not the hardest.
Humanity's insatiable thirst for knowledge has always been its hubris. By exploring the edge of the universe, we might have gone too far, flown too close to a star. In our search for the next frontier, we met the wrath of a deadly parasite. Relentless monstrosities, spreading like a plague. Their presence blackens the lands, festering, corrupting, and consuming everything in their path. We named it the Legion. Worlds fell. Our strongest weapons failed. Lush, thriving planets were hollowed into lifeless husks. As extinction loomed and hope had all but vanished, a small group of field biologists discovered a mysterious type of space creature, the Voidlings. Though resilient and adaptable, they stood no chance on their own, but they held a hidden strength, the possibility to evolve and resist the Legion. Thus, the Voidling-bound program was born, sending trained specialists, the Wranglers, to neural bind with Voidlings, connecting their minds and forging a symbiotic alliance. Through this connection, Wranglers can accelerate the creature's evolution and wield their full potential to fight the dreadful disease. Together, Wranglers and Voidlings, bound as one, now stand as the last line of defense in our fight for survival.
there was this whole thing with the Avatar movies where they were talking about I think it was some sort of reference on like Big Bang Theory, where they were saying, oh, they use their ponytails when they have sex, therefore when they're having whatever, like with the animals, that means they're having sex. Like, I don't think that's exactly what it means. I think the ponytail thing just allows them to connect neurologically to individuals involved. But I was thinking with regards to this, like, they try to represent it in a nice way, but you're still kind of taking over the body of an animal. Maybe there's some sort of symbiosis there or whatever, but it does feel like you're literally just taking over the body of an animal. Alright, I want to see how this thing runs. Again, it's relatively new, so I don't know if it would know if it's all good or not. Maybe. Might be all good. So I might have to just drop down the settings. Video's ground team Alpha is meant to secure data and avoid links before. His mission in action, likely dead, taking my lead. Sorry, I was watching that. We thought the mission was lost, but somehow Henry spotted a survivor, avoiding. Is safely on board now, ready for neural binding. Sweet. Still, ecosystems are vanishing by the hour, and we can't enter without concrete data. We need to access the team's research if we want any chance to save the fauna. I tore through it, so resistance should be light. Perfect for the first mission. First. Find the radio tower and bring it online. It's probably half buried under Legion tumors. With their data we can collect safe zones, track surviving voidlings, and plan counterattacks. Yeah. Grab any voidling samples while you're out there. Leon will want to know what to do with them. Vivarium. What am I thinking of? I guess there's aquarium, terrarium, and vivarium, which might just be a little more like a broad term. I don't know. Just a life place or something. I don't know. Viva means life, right? Henry's there, he's taking care of your new recruit. He'll fill you in. Waking up, hoorah. Morning, Greenhorn. Cry, treating you alright. We're still feeling warmed up sewage. Like warmed up sludge. I was thawed out last week and still can't hold on breakfast, but hey, I've got you covered anyway. But hey, I got you covered anyway. Found a partner for you a couple days back. Fella's been pacing ever since. Guess he wants to take you for a walk. Guess he wants you to take you for a walk. Equipec. Straight out of what's left of Vireo's jungle. Yeah, you know. Yeah, I know. What you gonna say? It's got all the charms of a potato with googly eyes. Don't let that blank stare fool you. Sorry. Okay. No more Ebonics. There's a clever spark in there, and the saliva melts through Legion spawn like butter on a griddle. It's quick, it's sturdy, and it's just enough bite. Perfect for your first run. Alright, enough jawing. Head down to the vivarium and say hi to your new buddy. Don't screw it up. Yeah, first boiling is something special. Yeah. This seems like it's new. I don't remember this the first time I played through. It does look rather homely. You know those cats where they're naked, basically? It's kind of what it reminds me of. Alright, let's boogie. I think I'm gonna go with vitality first. One thing that's a little bit actually about this is they literally just do runs. Feels like all the time these days they just have save points every 2 seconds and literally once you have to go back. I appreciate the notion of it in principle just because it's kind of takes some of the oomph out of it as well. Just send it. Using your primary attack will deplete your stamina. You can restore your stamina faster than normal. Press square before it runs out completely. I neglected to mention, too, one of the other things I really don't like, one of the other reasons why I really don't like playing, like, really difficult games is because the whole notion of spending time, like, an inordinate amount of time and effort, lack of creativity, which you know, have an endless supply of it, does probably generate something, but you don't have an endless supply of it at one sitting, in any case. Like, the notion of spending all of that on a game rather than something that's more practical. I prefer playing games that are, you know, fun, challenging in a fun way, but not like Rubik's Cube of a game, if that makes sense. Something that's just Looks like a dodo with a Westbeard head. If I remember from what you call it, Ice Age. The body shape that is. Like you would think they would do it. I guess maybe it's just something normal that would happen. Yeah. I don't remember getting a pirate or a pyro mutagen. Maybe they just give you one. Frankly, I had to bet against you, Wrangler. And somehow you've managed to stumble into success. Don't expect applause, but I suppose this merits a proper introduction. I am Leon Schrödinger. Like Schrödinger's cat? A renowned geneticist, chief of Gen Life Legions program, and, as of late, tragically marooned in your tin can. On your tin can. Luckily for you, it appears I am destined to assist you in your highly overqualified personal geneticist. To start, I've reviewed the report on your first Voidling-bound mission. Let's not sugarcoat it, it's dismal. Neural-binding connection, performance, subpar, Voidling genetic data, disastrous at least. But credit where credit is due. The research samples you brought should be enough to work with the devices. I finished engineering earlier. Follow me, Wrangler. We shall begin the evolution with the evolutionary chamber. It's time to surpass nature's failures and craft true apex genetics. He's gonna be evil, I'll guarantee it. Smart ass. He's British and smart. Reportedly smart. Thinks he's smart. Alright, mutagens come in all elemental variants. Varieties are required to evolve voidlings in a given element strand. Alright, let's see what's good. Oh. Pyromutagen. I think I got this one last time. Had I ever tried an actual pyro? Yeah, why not? Explosive projectiles at a slow fire rate. Shoot chaotic projectiles at a high fire rate and burn targets on hit. That'd be good. I don't think I can do that right now. Excellent. The mutagens we inserted are stabilizing, as I anticipated. The Voidling should easily dispose of the Legion spawn defenses. Let's move on to the Cerebral Enhancer, a precise apparatus meant to implement genetically engineered biosynapses and stimulate new cognitive function. How delightful. A pompous twit. Research samples acquired from Legion's spawn. Alright, projectile speed. Damn it up. Rapid fire faucets. Video stream of ooze that damages enemies on impact. That's kinda cool. Slurp rockets. So this is the base, and then this is the rocket that you can shoot. Alright, fire rate. Yoink. Okay, what am I doing here? Optimum range. By 20%. Projectile accuracy. Not be bad. Not be bad. Yeah, alright. So for now, this is good work, but we need more research samples to retrieve anything above mediocre. Collect them diligently, my dear boy. Lay the foundation of your Voidling's progress, which is all important. Before you go, Rachel insists upon seeing you for a briefing. But remember, it is my insights that will drive your success, not the silly female tart. Misogynist. You age doesn't like being ordered around by a woman, isn't it? Data is flowing in, it isn't good. Legion spawns are spreading their plague like wildfire. The voidlings are on the brink of extinction. We have detected the Legion's infection, targeting one of the last known Quipec sanctuaries. If this natural shelter falls, we will lose our species and our footholds, so defend it at all costs, but remember, this isn't just about saving them. We need to evolve them and make them strong enough to fight back. So again, keep an eye out for research. Still, like, this represents you as the good guys, but I'm not so sure. You're kind of exploiting animals as soldiers, and you're taking over their bodies, which is supposed to be a symbiotic relationship, I guess. That's how they represent it. Like, maybe the voidlings don't mind it, or they're cool with someone controlling their bodies, but maybe there's some sort of, like, sympathy there. Maybe it is a teamwork thing, but it just seems like it bears multiple interpretations. This mission is a real test, Wrangler. You're dropping into a hot zone. Time to see what you're made of. Good luck. Alright, one more mission. Just one more mission before I retire. I have a wife and kid to go home to, you know that, right? I still remember him. He's only about 5 years old. Can't wait to get back to them. I sure hope nothing bad happens. Saying that this seems to handle this game a lot better, so maybe this laptop has a better CPU for some stuff, but it feels like the older PC that I had built actually handles Age of Empires better. So I was playing Age of Empires 3 on this thing every now and then. Well, I'm thinking it was when we would get to like a later stage gameplay. It was just too much fun, but this computer wasn't able to go. It would start to stutter and it would start to sleep. Again, I'm not sure if it had to do with just how much was going on. I don't remember it happening. Alright, it's been rescued and returned to your ship. Blah, 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 blah. Alright, let's see if we can do some stuff here. Dash and slash, execute low health enemies. Quick dash. Attacks. We'll do maybe this. Couldn't hurt. Alright. So I feel like I maybe could have done that if I had been doing better in the first parts. Now if I can manage to get past and get into the boss fight without my health thing. Could be just causing it to lag? That in particular, why is that causing it to lag? Here's another weird thing. Somehow on my other CPU, just installing, like I'm running Ubuntu on the other system, and just installing, like, no, it's like it's compiling Vulkan shaders whenever you go into a game. I don't know if it's just because it's Ubuntu or whatever. But somehow, like, just particularly installing the shaders, that in particular, causes it to, like, utilize, like, almost 100% of the CPU. You can play the game at, like, something like 70% or 50%, but the shaders itself makes it run really hot. And it's just really labor intensive. Even the jungle mob cauldrons. Quipex are gathering again. They've spotted even a few gilliks roaming the area. We are not done. Legion has overrun the plateaus overlooking the jungle. The Crimson Mesa. The Legion's overrun the plateaus overlooking the jungle. The Crimson Mesa is it used to be a thriving feeding ground for the multiple voidling species and needs cleansing. With shelter and food in proximity, these voidlings should start to produce offspring again. Yeah. A breeding program, I take it. Go, Voidling-bound Wrangler, and if you haven't already, check in with Leon to use the resources you gathered. Yes. Yes. Precisely. Alright, let's see. Let's see if we can improve this. We'll be done for today. Now this is being glitchy too. I might just literally have to turn down the thing. So I was thinking this was handling it pretty well as far as graphics is concerned, but apparently not. I wonder if it was some sort of pre-state of the game that was just takes less to run or something. Like if it's the tutorial or something, maybe it just handles that better somehow. All right. Shoot explosive projectiles at a slow fire rate. I'm going to do this one. Shoot chaotic projectiles at a high fire rate and burn targets on hit. No, but this is like dropping frames. To be fair, the laptop itself is not the newest of the new. It's like an HP Omen. Alright, shoot projectiles that pass through enemies and spawns explosive along its path. That could be pretty legit. Shoot a quick projectile that explodes into multiple blazing embers, applying burn to your enemies on hit. Scatter bomb. That could be cool too. I think I prefer scatter bomb. But it's a moot point. I can't get either of them right now. So, yeah. Alright, thank you guys for watching, and you have a lovely weekend.